At 35,000 feet, the sky looked eternal. Flight 784 sliced through a velvet blanket of clouds, its silver body glinting faintly beneath a fading twilight. Inside the cockpit, everything appeared calm, almost too calm. The hum of the engines blended with the soft beeping of instruments, creating a rhythmic lull that could lull even the most anxious traveler into false security. Captain Daniel Harper sat rigid in his seat, back straight, eyes trained forward. His reflection shimmered faintly in the glass of the windshield. A veteran pilot with 22 years of flight experience, creases around his eyes earned through countless storms, sleepless nights, and impossible landings. Beside him, First Officer Elena Ruiz adjusted the autopilot with surgical precision. Her hands moved with quiet confidence, the kind that came from thousands of hours in the air. She glanced at Harper, offering a subtle nod. "Smooth flight so far," she said, trying to fill the silence. Harper didn't reply immediately. His gaze remained fixed on the horizon, where the last streaks of orange sunlight were being devoured by an advancing wall of darkness. Below them, the clouds churned like an angry ocean. Inside the cabin, life felt ordinary. A toddler in seat 22B giggled, kicking his tiny feet against the seat in front of him. A young couple whispered about their upcoming vacation. A businessman typed furiously on his laptop, oblivious to everything else. Two teenagers argued playfully over headphones. And in seat 14A, Maya Collins stared out the window. She wasn't smiling. Her reflection hovered over the sea of clouds, eyes sharp, thoughtful, almost too aware for a 14-year-old. In her lap rested a small silver keychain, a miniature Black Hawk helicopter, worn from years of handling. Her father's. Then the first tremor rippled through the plane. It wasn't violent, not yet. Just a subtle shudder, the kind most passengers would dismiss as mild turbulence. Coffee sloshed slightly in a cup. A few heads turned. But Harper felt it in his bones. His fingers tightened on the control yoke. Elena leaned forward, scanning her instruments. "That didn't feel right," she murmured. Outside, lightning flickered far in the distance, a jagged, silent flash that illuminated the towering storm clouds ahead like a cathedral of darkness. Another shudder rolled through the aircraft. This time stronger. Overhead, lights flickered. A child gasped. The cabin grew quieter, laughter fading, conversations dying mid-sentence. In the cockpit, a soft alarm chimed. Harper's heartbeat quickened. "Hydraulics pressure dropping," Elena said, her calm voice beginning to strain. Harper tapped controls, adjusted systems, but the aircraft resisted, like something unseen was gripping it. Then the radio crackled. "Static." Harper spoke into it. "Denver Center, Flight 784, we're experiencing minor system irregularities. Request weather update." Silence. He tried again. Nothing. No reply. No signal. The cockpit felt smaller, the air heavier. The storm ahead loomed closer, lightning now flickering inside its black heart. The plane dipped. A sharp drop that made passengers grab armrests and gasp in unison. Oxygen masks trembled above their heads. In seat 14A, Maya's breath caught. Her grip tightened around the tiny helicopter keychain. Her mind flashed back to a memory, her father sitting at their kitchen table, pointing to a weather map. "Clouds can lie," he had told her. "Sometimes the real danger is what you can't see." Another alarm blared in the cockpit, louder now, more urgent. Elena's voice cracked slightly. "Captain, we're losing control." Response. Harper swallowed hard. For a split second, his training wavered, just enough for fear to creep in. Then the plane shook violently. A deep metallic groan echoed from beneath the floor, like the aircraft itself was crying out. Passengers screamed. A woman dropped her rosary. A man slammed his laptop shut. In the aisle, a flight attendant stumbled but caught herself. Eyes wide with panic, she struggled to hide. Inside the cockpit, Harper made the call no pilot ever wants to make. He reached for the emergency frequency. But still nothing. No air traffic control. No guidance. No help. Just isolation at 35,000 feet. Then something changed. Through the cockpit window, the storm no longer looked distant. It looked alive. Lightning split the sky again, so close it reflected off the glass. Wind battered the plane, throwing it sideways like a toy. Inside the cabin, Maya stood. Not out of fear. Out of resolve. She moved forward, weaving past terrified passengers who barely noticed her. A flight attendant rushed toward her. "Sit down now." Maya looked up, her face pale but unshaken. She pointed toward the cockpit. "I need to talk to them." Before anyone could stop her, another violent jolt rocked the plane, knocking people off balance. In the cockpit, alarms erupted in a chaotic symphony. And suddenly, everything went quiet. Not calm quiet. Terrifying quiet. The kind that feels like the breath before a disaster. The engine still roared. But the cockpit fell silent. Harper turned slowly. Through the small window in the cockpit door, he saw Maya standing there, eyes locked on him. Outside, lightning tore the sky apart. Inside, the plane tilted dangerously. And in that frozen moment, a 14-year-old girl stepped forward toward a cockpit filled with fear, failure, and silence. Because deep down, she knew something the pilots didn't. This wasn't just a storm. And this wasn't just a malfunction. Something far darker was waiting in the clouds. Maya Collins had learned to move quietly through the world. Not because she was shy, but because she was observant. On Flight 784, most passengers saw only a slender teenager with braided hair, oversized headphones, and a backpack patched with robotic stickers. A kid, ordinary, forgettable. But Maya noticed everything. She noticed the way the cabin lights flickered in a pattern that didn't match normal turbulence. She noticed the rhythm of the engines, how one sounded strained, slightly off, like a runner with a broken ankle trying to keep pace. She noticed the shift in the flight attendants' faces, how professionalism was cracking beneath their smiles. 2 years earlier, Maya had sat at a kitchen table covered in accident reports. Her father, Major Thomas Collins, had been a U.S. Army Black Hawk rescue pilot, the kind of man who flew into storms others ran from, the kind of man who came home soaked in rain and grief, yet still lifted his daughter onto his shoulders and spun her around the living room. On his last night home, he had spread maps across the table. "Air, land, and sea all speak the same language," he told her. "If you learn to listen, you'll never be lost." He had taught her how pilots think under pressure, how they read instruments, how they interpret danger before it appears. Then he disappeared into a storm and never came back. The official report called it a training accident. Maya called it a lie. Now, as Flight 784 shuddered again, that memory burned in her chest. In the aisle, a flight attendant rushed past, trying to calm passengers. "Remain seated. Everything is under control." But her hands trembled. A businessman tried to send a message on his phone, no bars. His face drained of color. A mother clutched her toddler, whispering prayers. Across from Maya, the elderly veteran in seat 14B gripped his cane so tightly his knuckles turned white. His eyes were glassy, distant, like he was remembering a battlefield far away. Another violent jolt slammed the plane. Coffee splashed onto the carpet. Luggage rattled overhead. A woman screamed. Maya stood. Her legs felt unsteady, but her resolve was steel. A flight attendant moved quickly to stop her. "Miss, sit down now." Maya looked up at her, eyes sharp, almost too mature. "You don't understand," she said. "We're not just in turbulence." Before the attendant could respond, the plane dropped again, harder this time. People gasped. Someone cried out. Maya pushed forward, weaving between seats, ignoring hands that tried to pull her back. At the cockpit door, she paused. Through the small window, she saw Captain Harper leaning over his controls, sweat on his brow, lips pressed into a thin line. Beside him, Alina's calm had vanished, her face pale, eyes darting across flashing warnings. A flight attendant finally caught up to Maya. "You cannot be here." Maya didn't argue. Instead, she pointed to the intercom panel on the wall. "Give me the mic." The attendant stared at her like she was insane. Another jolt rocked the plane. Metal groaned beneath their feet. Inside the cockpit, an alarm shrieked, sharper, louder, more desperate than before. The attendant hesitated, then handed Maya the microphone. The cabin fell eerily quiet as Maya pressed the button. Her voice cut through the chaos, steady, clear, unnervingly controlled. "This is civilian flight 784. Mayday, Mayday. We are losing control at 35,000 feet. If any military aircraft are nearby, respond." Static answered her. Nothing else. Captain Harper turned toward the door, disbelief flooding his face. "Who gave her that?" he shouted. Maya didn't stop. Her fingers moved across the panel with surprising confidence, flipping a switch most passengers didn't even know existed. She changed frequencies. Inside the cockpit, Alina's eyes widened. "She just switched us to military channel." Maya leaned closer to the mic. Her voice shifted, colder, more precise, almost like she had rehearsed this moment her entire life. "Black Hawk units in grid sector 47 Delta. This is call sign Phoenix requesting immediate assistance." Silence. In the cockpit, Harper froze. "Phoenix," he whispered. Hundreds of miles away, and yet frighteningly close, 3 U.S. Army Black Hawks were slicing through the same storm, rotors hammering the night air. Captain Marcus Reed sat at the controls, rain streaking across his windshield, gauges flickering as lightning ripped across the sky. The mission was classified. No passengers, no civilians, no distractions. Then the voice crackled into his headset. Clear, calm, impossible. "Black Hawk units in grid sector 47 Delta. This is call sign Phoenix requesting immediate assistance." Reed stiffened. His co-pilot frowned. "Did you hear that?" Reed's heart pounded. "Repeat that call sign," he said into his radio. Back on flight 784, Maya didn't hesitate. Her grip tightened on the mic. "Call sign Phoenix. Civilian aircraft in distress. We are losing hydraulics and altitude." Inside the Black Hawk, Reed's breath caught in his throat. Because Phoenix was not random. Phoenix had been the call sign of Major Thomas Collins, a pilot declared lost 2 years ago in a storm just like this one. Reed felt a chill creep up his spine. He banked his helicopter hard toward the clouds. "Form up, we're diverting." Back on the jet, another violent shudder rocked the aircraft, stronger than any before. The nose dipped sharply. Oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling. Passengers screamed in unison. In the cockpit, Captain Harper shouted, "Brace for impact." Maya pressed her forehead against the cold cockpit door. Her father's tiny Black Hawk keychain burned in her palm. High above them, the real Black Hawks tore straight into the heart of the storm, lightning exploding around their rotors. And in that moment, Maya realized something terrifying. Calling them might save lives, but it might also wake something that had been buried in the storm for years. Outside, thunder boomed like a weapon. Inside the plane, the lights flickered. And through the radio, Captain Reed's voice finally cut in. Phoenix were coming. But his tone carried fear, not relief. because whatever was waiting in that storm was already watching them. Rain battered Flight 784's fuselage, drumming a chaotic rhythm that rattled nerves and bones alike. The cabin lights flickered as the plane dipped again, throwing passengers against their seatbelts. Screams filled the aisles. A toddler wailed, a mother clutched him to her chest, eyes wide with terror. In the cockpit, Captain Harper's knuckles were white on the yoke. "Hydraulics are failing faster than I anticipated," he shouted. Elena's fingers flew across the panel, desperately trying to compensate, but the plane had a mind of its own. Every instrument told a different story. Then through the chaos, a voice cut through the cabin, calm, commanding, precise. "Maya Collins." She pressed her forehead to the intercom and spoke in a tone that silenced the screaming passengers. "Flight 784, this is call sign Phoenix. We are losing control at 35,000 feet. Emergency assistance required. Black Hawk units in grid sector 47 Delta, respond." Static crackled in reply, then nothing. Harper's eyes widened. Who gave that order? Maya ignored him. Her hands moved across the intercom panel with uncanny confidence. She adjusted frequencies, switching them to a military channel reserved for Black Hawk operations. "Elena, she's doing what?" Harper stammered. "Elena," whispered Elena herself, her eyes fixed on Maya. "She knows how to speak their codes, she knows." Far above, 3 U.S. Army Black Hawks were fighting the storm, rotors slicing rain-laden air, each pilot battling the storm's force with every ounce of skill. Captain Marcus Reed, leader of the squadron, froze when the call crackled in his headset. "Black Hawk units, this is call sign Phoenix requesting immediate assistance," Maya repeated, clear, unwavering. Reed's stomach dropped. "Phoenix." Not just a call sign. The call sign of a pilot who had vanished 2 years ago, Major Thomas Collins, Maya's father. The memory hit Reed like a lightning strike. That call sign hasn't been used in years," he whispered. His co-pilot stared at him, disbelief written across his face. "Did you just hear that?" the co-pilot said. "Yes," Reed said through gritted teeth. "Form up, we're going in." Back in the cockpit of Flight 784, the plane bucked violently again. Alarms blared in a terrifying symphony of reds and yellows. Oxygen masks dropped. Panic surged. Passengers screamed. A woman's rosary slid across the floor, beads scattering like tiny meteors. Harper swallowed, voice tight. She's guiding us." Maya's grip on her father's miniature Black Hawk keychain tightened. Memories of his lessons, air, land, and sea speaking the same language, came flooding back. She closed her eyes for a fraction of a second and recited what she had practiced 100 times in secret. "Level the wings, monitor the hydraulic systems, slow descent, don't fight it, let it glide." Harper followed her instructions like a man hypnotized, adjusting the yoke gradually, trusting a 14-year-old who had somehow stepped into the role of co-pilot in a life-or-death moment. Outside, Reed's Black Hawks tore through the storm, struggling to maintain formation in hurricane-force winds. Lightning slashed across the sky, illuminating the violent waves of clouds below. The squadron was dangerously close to the commercial jet, far closer than military protocol allowed. But the voice over the radio, call sign Phoenix, was impossible to ignore. Back inside the cabin, passengers had begun to sense something miraculous. The plane was stabilizing, despite the chaos outside. The violent drops were lessening, though the storm remained a menacing, living force. And then the cockpit radio crackled again, Maya's voice cutting through the static. "Black Hawks, I need visual confirmation. We don't have long." Reed's eyes widened. The teen's precision, her calm in the storm, it was unreal. He banked one helicopter sharply, breaking through the clouds. There it was, Flight 784, barely holding together, pitching and rolling but still flying. "Visual," Reed said into his headset. "We see her, we see Phoenix." Inside the jet, Harper glanced at Maya, a mixture of awe and disbelief washing over him. You're guiding them." Maya didn't answer immediately, her lips pressed together, jaw tight. "They're here," she said softly, "but they can't save us yet, not until we reach the drop zone." The plane lurched again. A violent jolt shook the fuselage, tossing passengers against their seatbelts. The lights flickered. Something in the storm beyond, unseen, vast, and immovable, seemed to test the aircraft as if the clouds themselves were alive. Maya clenched her teeth, eyes scanning the cockpit instruments. She whispered one sentence she hoped would reach the pilots above the storm. "Prepare for turbulence, and something else, something in the storm with us." Far above, Reed stiffened. The Black Hawks had never detected anything like this on radar, and yet he could feel it, a presence in the storm, something massive moving just beneath the cloud line, unseen but undeniable. Inside the cabin, passengers screamed as the plane dropped slightly. Harper's voice broke. "God help us." Maya's eyes met his. "No," she said firmly, "we help ourselves first." And somewhere high above, the Black Hawks cut through the storm, engines straining, rotors whipping the rain, closing the distance between a 14-year-old girl and the impossible disaster that awaited them all. Lightning split the sky like a jagged blade. Rain pelted Flight 784 with the fury of 1,000 storms, each drop striking metal like a hammer. The aircraft pitched violently, throwing passengers into the armrests and overhead bins. A toddler's wail was swallowed by the roar of the engines. Inside the cockpit, Captain Harper's knuckles were white from gripping the yoke. "We're losing hydraulics faster than I can compensate," he shouted, voice cracking with strain. Elena's eyes darted across the instruments, trying to stabilize the plane. "It's responding slower, and the left wing is showing stress." Maya, standing beside the flight attendant who had reluctantly allowed her in, studied the panel with the same intensity a seasoned pilot would. She traced patterns in the blinking warnings, instinctively calculating adjustments to compensate for the failing systems. Her voice was calm, precise, authoritative. "Level the wings, reduce speed gradually, don't fight the plane, let it glide." Harper hesitated. He was the captain, trained to command every crisis. Yet he found himself following the instructions of a 14-year-old girl, and against all odds, the plane's violent oscillations eased just slightly. Above, the Black Hawks tore through the storm. Captain Marcus Reed's helicopter was nearly invisible in the sheets of rain and flashes of lightning, rotors whipping at maximum speed. His squadron was straining every inch of engineering and skill to maintain formation. "Visual on Flight 784, Reed said into his radio. "But conditions are deteriorating fast. We'll need to guide them through the drop zone. No landing options below, it's ocean, deep and unforgiving." Back in the jet, passengers were clinging to seatbelts, praying, screaming, some quietly weeping. An elderly veteran gripped his cane so tightly the metal bent slightly. His eyes were fixed on the ceiling, unseeing, reliving battles far more brutal than this one. Maya moved to the cockpit door. "They're here," she said softly, addressing the unseen Black Hawks. "But the storm isn't finished with us yet." Harper's voice was hoarse. "What storm? This isn't normal turbulence, it's something else, something alive." Maya didn't respond. Instead, she studied the altimeter, the hydraulic warnings, the fluctuating airspeed. She calculated rapidly, instinctively, the glide path needed to keep them alive long enough for the helicopters to reach them. Outside, lightning struck closer than ever, illuminating the violent roiling of the clouds, revealing the massive waves of air that twisted Flight 784 as if it were paper. Thunder rolled like an artillery barrage. Reed banked his Black Hawk dangerously close, rotor wash whipping the rain into blinding sheets. "Hold on," he shouted to his team. "We're going to form a perimeter, stabilize them and guide them through the worst of it." Inside Flight 784, the plane lurched again. This time, it wasn't random turbulence. It was as if the storm itself was testing them, probing for weakness. Metal groaned under the strain. Seatbelts dug into flesh. Oxygen masks rattled. Maya pressed her forehead against the intercom panel and spoke into the mic. "Black Hawks, left wing stress critical. Keep formation tight. Adjust altitude 200 feet. We can't handle another jolt like the last one." Reed's jaw tightened. His squadron adjusted their positions, one helicopter slicing directly beneath the jet, another alongside, rotors spinning at impossible speeds to counter the wind shear. The storm tried to push them apart, tried to overwhelm them. But Phoenix, the girl in the cockpit, was controlling the outcome. Harper looked at her, disbelief and awe etched into his face. You're doing what the autopilot can't. You're flying us with the Black Hawks guiding." Maya didn't smile. Her eyes were fixed forward, calculating, alert. "Keep your hands off the yoke unless I tell you. We can make it, but we need seconds, and seconds are all we have." Another bolt of lightning cracked, closer than ever. The plane shuddered violently. A fuselage panel bent. A deep metallic groan echoed through the cabin. And in that moment, Maya's voice rose over the roar. "Prepare for turbulence and something else." Reed's heart skipped. He could feel it through the rotors, through the instruments, through the sheer weight of air and rain. Something massive, unseen, was moving with Flight 784, not random, not natural, not anything they had encountered before. Inside the cockpit, Harper swallowed hard. "We're not just fighting the storm anymore, we're fighting something else." And above them, the Black Hawks pressed closer, slicing through the storm, engines screaming, rotors beating against the rain as the unseen menace in the clouds watched, waiting. The first glimpse of the ocean below hit Flight 784 like a punch. The endless black water stretched beyond the horizon, reflecting flashes of lightning in jagged silver streaks. No city lights, no runway, no sanctuary, just the storm and the dark, churning ocean waiting to swallow them whole. Captain Harper's stomach dropped. He had flown hundreds of planes, faced countless emergencies, but never this. Losing hydraulics at 35,000 feet over open water left almost no options. The plane could glide, maybe, but a controlled ditching. That was near impossible in these conditions. "Brace for a water landing," Harper shouted into the mic. His voice was tense but deliberate. "I need everyone strapped in, remain calm, do exactly as we practiced for ditching. This is not a drill." In the cabin, panic erupted. Children screamed. Mothers clutched them tightly. Elderly passengers prayed, their voices shaky, hands pressed together. A businessman tried to make a call, dead air. Every person felt the inevitability of what was coming. Maya stood beside Harper, fingers clutching the small Black Hawk keychain that had survived storms and years of neglect. She could feel the vibrations through the cockpit floor, the shudder of the plane under stress, the wailing of engines screaming against the storm. She closed her eyes for a heartbeat. "Level the wings," she instructed. "We have to stabilize, reduce speed gradually. Nose slightly up, let the plane slice through the wind, don't fight it. Trust me, Captain." Harper followed, voice tight, sweat dripping down his face. You know how to do this." "I've watched," Maya said, voice steady, almost eerily calm. "My dad taught me everything about Black Hawks. Now it's my turn." Outside, the Black Hawks carved through sheets of rain, rotor blades spinning with deafening fury. Captain Marcus Reed had positioned his lead helicopter directly above Flight 784, the other two flanking the jet. The storm hammered them with relentless force, but Reed couldn't look away from the jet. Something about the call sign Phoenix, the confidence in that girl's voice, it demanded respect. "Maintain formation," Reed yelled. "We can't let them go off course. One misstep and the ocean wins." Inside the cabin, water already began seeping through the fuselage seams. The impact with the ocean would be brutal. The first jolt when the plane touched the waves would test every bolt and joint. Harper realized the plane might not survive intact. "Passengers, this is it," Harper shouted over the intercom. "Remain calm, follow instructions, brace positions now." Maya's eyes darted between gauges. "Hydraulics failing faster, left wing compromised. We have only seconds before the fuselage gives. Black Hawks now." Reed responded immediately. Cables shot down from the helicopters. Rescue swimmers, trained for near-impossible water extractions, plunged into the hurricane-force rain and waves. They latched ropes to the fuselage, screaming over the roar of the wind. The plane dipped, pitching sharply, slamming metal against metal. A deep groan echoed through the interior as overhead bins buckled. Oxygen masks swung wildly. Water surged into the aisles. A flight attendant grabbed a woman and her child, dragging them toward the emergency exits. The veteran smashed a window with his cane to allow another passenger to climb out. Chaos erupted, but Maya remained poised. "Keep guiding them," Harper yelled. "We can't lose anyone." Maya pressed her forehead against the intercom panel. "Black Hawks, focus on passengers in the middle cabin. Don't let anyone drift away. We have seconds only." The first group of survivors was lifted into the Black Hawks, the rotor wash whipping sheets of rain into walls of white. Passengers screamed as they were hoisted above the water. Harper could see the ocean swallowing waves beneath the fuselage, each second bringing them closer to the point of no return. Then the fuselage groaned violently, more severe than ever, and the left wing began to dip ominously. Harper swallowed. "Maya, we're out of time." Her lips pressed together. "Not yet," she said. She glanced at the remaining passengers. "We go until everyone is safe." Outside, the helicopters hovered dangerously close to the plane, rotors slicing the stormy night. Rescue swimmers clung to ropes, fighting the wind, water, and chaos. The ocean threatened to claim them all. And beneath the dark waves, unseen, something enormous moved with the wreckage, circling, waiting, silent and patient. Harper's voice broke over the intercom. "Everyone, brace for impact." Maya gripped her father's keychain, whispering, "We're not done, not yet." Lightning illuminated the storm. The ocean rose like a wall. The plane plunged toward the black water. And above them, the Black Hawks prepared for the impossible extraction. The first contact with the ocean hit like a battering ram. Water slammed against the fuselage, bending metal with a screech that made passengers scream in unison. The plane shuddered violently, tilting forward as it skidded across the waves. Inside, chaos erupted. Harper gritted his teeth, holding the controls as the nose dug into the black water. Every second felt like an eternity. The engine screamed. The cabin lights flickered violently. Water rushed through cracks in the doors and floor panels, soaking everything in icy, relentless torrents. Maya fell to the floor, sliding across the slick surface but scrambled upright. She pressed herself against the intercom and shouted instructions to passengers, her voice steady despite the roar around her. "Grab seat belts, hold onto the straps, stay calm." The fuselage twisted violently. Passengers screamed. A mother clutched her child as the seat beside her collapsed. An elderly veteran gripped his cane like a lifeline, eyes wide, bracing against the water and pitch. Overhead bins burst open. Luggage tumbled like boulders. Outside, the Black Hawks hovered in the storm, rotor wash throwing sheets of rain into a white fury. Reed's squadron pressed cables into the water, rescue swimmers plunging into the hurricane-like waves. They fought to secure ropes to the fuselage while the jet pitched and groaned with every swell. "Everyone listen to me," Harper yelled, voice raw. "Move toward the exits, follow instructions, keep calm." Maya grabbed the microphone again. "Black Hawks, first group ready for hoist. Focus on the middle cabin, keep them secure." The first passengers were lifted into the helicopters, screaming as the wind and spray battered them. Harper watched them rise, one by one. A young couple, a toddler, the elderly veteran, all lifted to safety, hanging from cables into the roaring night. Then the fuselage groaned louder, a deep, metallic scream, and the left wing dipped dangerously. Harper realized the plane itself might not survive another second. Maya pressed her forehead to the panel, whispering, "We still have a chance. Keep moving." Another violent tilt threw passengers to the floor. Water surged past their knees. A flight attendant screamed, helping a woman and child toward an exit. A man fell into the aisle, flailing, but was grabbed and dragged to safety. Outside, Reed's lead Black Hawk twisted sharply, engine screaming, rotor wash whipping a chaotic spiral. Rescue swimmers battled the waves, tethering passengers to the cables, their muscles burning, their faces white with effort and cold. Then a shadow moved beneath the water, massive, silent, unseen at first, something so large it defied belief, coiling and circling the wreckage. The jet shuddered as if the ocean itself had clenched it in a fist. Maya's eyes widened. She didn't need to see it to feel its presence. She whispered almost to herself, "It's here." Harper turned toward her. "What?" But before he could finish, the fuselage tilted sharply to starboard. Water poured in, rising fast. Harper grabbed the controls desperately. "We have to go, now." The remaining passengers were hoisted into the Black Hawks with seconds to spare. Maya followed Harper, clinging to the small keychain. Rescue swimmers latched ropes to them, hauling them out of the sinking cockpit. The fuselage began to tilt completely, the ocean swallowing it with a roar that seemed almost alive. As they rose into the relative safety of the helicopters, Harper and Maya looked back. Flight 784's tail broke the surface for the last moment before disappearing entirely beneath the waves. The ocean closed over it like a tomb. Then a ripple, massive, deliberate, surged from beneath the wreckage. Something enormous had been stirred. It circled, then disappeared into the darkness below, leaving only turbulent water in its wake. Inside the Black Hawk, Harper collapsed onto a seat, soaked and trembling. Maya held the keychain tight, staring down at the black waves. She whispered, "It's gone, but it's still there, waiting." Reed hovered low, rotors screaming against the storm. "All survivors accounted for," he shouted. "Yes," Harper rasped, "but whatever's under there, it wasn't just the storm." Maya's voice, quiet but firm, carried a chilling certainty. "No, it was watching us, and it's patient." Lightning illuminated the ocean one last time, revealing only black waves and a storm that seemed endless. And somewhere deep below, something massive moved silently, remembering every detail of the plane that had fallen into its domain. The helicopters sliced through the stormy night like blades, carrying the survivors of Flight 784 away from the now submerged fuselage. Rain pelted them with relentless force, rotors whipping the spray into stinging walls of water. Inside the lead Black Hawk, Captain Marcus Reed's jaw was tight, eyes scanning the waves below, heart pounding. "Everyone accounted for," he barked. Harper, soaked and shivering, looked at Maya. "Yes, all passengers are out," he rasped. His hands trembled from adrenaline and cold. But the plane, it didn't just go down. Something moved beneath it. Maya's grip on the small Black Hawk keychain tightened. She stared at the black, endless water. "It's not gone, it's waiting, watching." The other Black Hawks circled, their pilots straining to keep the group together, struggling against the wind and rain. Rescue swimmers had been pulled back into the helicopters. All passengers were huddled in blankets, shaking, eyes wide with disbelief. They were alive, but their terror hadn't ended. The veteran, seated near Harper, whispered, "I've been in battles, storms, and never seen anything like that." His voice shook. Maya didn't answer. She remembered her father's warnings. Sometimes the ocean moves in ways humans cannot predict. Sometimes it remembers. Below, the black waves churned. The sonar from a nearby Coast Guard cutter crackled through the Black Hawk's radios. "Unidentified massive object detected beneath the wreckage," the voice said, calm but tense. Reed froze. "Repeat that," he commanded. "Sonar shows something huge submerged moving slowly beneath the wreckage," the operator replied. "Could be biological or structural anomaly. Unknown." Maya's eyes narrowed. She whispered under her breath, "It's alive." Harper looked at her. "Alive, what do you mean?" Maya shook her head. "I don't know, but whatever it was waiting for us when the plane went down. It knew we were coming." Inside the helicopters, the passengers huddled together, trying to process the chaos they had survived. The mother of the toddler whispered, How did we survive?" Harper swallowed. "There was a girl, she guided us, saved us." Maya looked at him, face pale and streaked with rain. "We weren't just lucky," she said softly. "We were chosen." Reed's helicopter banked sharply, scanning the water. Something beneath the waves shifted. The sonar blip moved with a deliberate rhythm, circling the area where Flight 784 had vanished. "Reed, it's huge," one pilot muttered. "I've never seen anything on radar like this." Maya's hand instinctively touched her father's miniature Black Hawk. Memories flooded her mind, the lessons he had taught her, the warnings, the strategies, the codes. She whispered to herself, "Daddy, we're not done yet." Suddenly, a massive wave erupted near the site where the fuselage had sunk. Spray shot into the air, hitting the Black Hawks with force. The rotor wash became chaotic. Reed fought the controls, stabilizing the lead helicopter as the other two Black Hawks banked sharply to avoid the blast. Inside the lead Black Hawk, Maya leaned against the bulkhead. Her gaze pierced the water below. "It's awake," she said, voice barely audible over the rotors. "And it knows we're here." Reed's face tightened. "All units maintain formation. Do not descend further. We do not know what it is or how dangerous it can be. Keep the passengers safe." The ocean beneath them churned like a living creature, black water twisting and bulging, forming shapes that defied explanation. It was slow, methodical, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. Maya's lips pressed together, jaw tight. She whispered one word into the storm. "Phoenix." The Black Hawks hovered above. The survivors huddled in blankets, but the sense of dread was palpable. The storm had passed, but the true danger, whatever had been stirred from the deep, had only just revealed itself. Harper looked at Maya, realizing something chilling. They had survived Flight 784, but what waited below the surface might not let anyone leave this night unscathed. And deep beneath the waves, something massive moved silently, circling, watching, and remembering. The storm had passed, or so it seemed. The rain slowed to a steady drizzle, and the wind no longer tore at the helicopters. But the ocean below remained black, restless, alive. The waves churned unnaturally, as if the sea itself were breathing, waiting for something. Inside the lead Black Hawk, Captain Marcus Reed's face was grim. "All survivors accounted for," he reported. But he didn't take his eyes off the water. The sonar continued to pick up a massive, moving object just beneath the surface, circling slowly, deliberately, almost as if sizing them up. Maya Collins held the small Black Hawk keychain in her palm, wet and cold. Her chest heaved, but her mind was sharp. She had faced the storm, guided the pilots, and helped save dozens of lives. But she knew the battle was not over. "They're still down there," she whispered, voice steady, "and they know we're here." Harper, sitting beside her, shook his head in disbelief. "I've flown through tornadoes, lightning storms, even combat zones, but nothing like this. You saved us, every single one of us. But how? How did a 14-year-old do what trained pilots could?" Maya looked out over the ocean, her eyes narrowed. "Because I've been trained by the best," she said quietly, "and because I've learned to listen, to really listen." She touched her father's keychain. "Call sign Phoenix doesn't just mean me. It means someone who fights against the impossible and survives." The water shifted again, larger this time, as if something enormous had just moved directly beneath the fuselage's resting place. The Black Hawks hovered in formation, rotors whipping the stormy air. The ocean seemed to boil. Suddenly, a massive shadow broke the surface. Water erupted into towering plumes, crashing down in chaotic waves. The survivors in the helicopters screamed as they glimpsed something vast, long, and impossibly dark. The sonar confirmed it. The object was massive, easily larger than a ship, and moving with intelligence. Reed's voice trembled slightly over the radio. What is that thing?" Maya didn't flinch. Her gaze locked onto the black shape cutting through the water. "It's not just an animal," she whispered. "It's aware, it's watching, it knows, and it's patient. It will wait until we make a mistake." The shadow descended back beneath the waves, leaving only turbulent water in its wake. The storm's rage had passed, but the sense of dread remained, as if the ocean itself had marked them. Harper turned to Maya. We made it. Everyone's alive. You saved all of them." She looked at him, expression solemn. "We survived the storm, but the ocean remembers. Whatever that was, it's out there waiting. And we're not the only ones it's watching." Reed's Black Hawk hovered low, engines thrumming, keeping the survivors safe. "We need to get them back to base," he said. "Now." The helicopters lifted higher, climbing out of the storm and above the churning ocean. Survivors huddled together, trembling, wrapped in blankets, watching the black waves disappear beneath them. Relief washed over them, but none could shake the feeling that the ocean had just revealed something ancient, deliberate, and dangerous. Maya held her father's keychain tightly, whispering to herself, "We survived, but I'll be ready next time." Her eyes were fierce, determined, the fire of a true phoenix burning within her. High above, the Black Hawks ascended toward calmer skies. The passengers of Flight 784 were safe. Emergency crews would meet them soon. But below, in the depths of the Black Ocean, the shadow moved silently, circling, patient, remembering. It had been awakened, and it would not forget. Maya glanced down one last time. She whispered her father's old words, now her own. "Air, land, and sea speak the same language, and I'm listening." The helicopters disappeared into the horizon, carrying the survivors away from the storm, and from the first encounter with the darkness beneath the waves. But in the black water, something vast stirred, waiting for the next time humans dared to intrude. And the legend of Call Sign Phoenix had only just begun.